Let's show up unapologetically black. Oh, now we're live. What?
I was gonna
Brittany's late on hitting the buttons, and we
Why
were
you hit
supposed to
the
be live 10 seconds ago. I did a whole spiel about. Anyway,
God,
welcome back, motherfuckers. How y'all doing today? How y'all doing this evening, man? We always, as you know, here at Unapologetically Black, we start off with a mental health check-in, make sure everybody's week is good. How y'all week going? We're gonna start off with our guests. We got Mr. Batman in the building. You know what I'm saying? Bruce Wayne, aka Brandon. What's up, bro? Bro, how your week going, man? How you doing?
It's going okay. I mean, technically, I'm supposed to be at work right now, but I figured I'd join y'all. So we're not doing anything.
Bad. Dre, how your week?
pretty good, man. Getting better at cutting my own hair. Put the rest of my furniture together after like putting that shit aside for months. So everything's good.
Okay, you put the bowl on top of your head and you like cut around it, or like how do you do it?
Yeah, that's what. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. nah,
Britt,
it's, yeah,
who can't get her life together? Hello, Ashley. How's your day going?
So I'm Brittany today.
Mm.
Actually, no, I'm Ashley today. I didn't open the show. I'm gonna change it. Anywho, my day's pretty good. Pretty good. I've been hanging out with the kids at camp. Kind of glad my shifts are over with till Friday. It's stressful. Somebody down the street from the camp crashed their car into an electric pole, so the entire city that I'm in lost power for a little bit.
Oh wow.
I was actually concerned about having Wi-Fi on time, but we here. It's all good.
that's what happens to y'all like once a year.
Oh yeah, the power. Well, no, because the fire was a few months ago, and we
Y'all
had no
like I got
power.
a whole natural disaster going on over there. I think we're gonna
Exactly.
stay away.
But how you feeling, Rich?
I'm good. I ain't gonna even lie to you. I'm good. I've adapted the mindset of fuck it. It's gonna be what it's gonna be when it comes to a lot of stuff. Had another employee from the same store put in their resignation letter. Fine by me. That same day she put it in, I had fucking 8 more interviews. So it is what it is. You know how these palm color people can be. And speaking of palm colored people, today's episode is all about palm colored people's towns and why they don't want us black melanated folks in them, aka Sundown Town, aka nigga get out, aka nigga don't let the sun hit your backside, which is an actual slogan in one of the Sundown towns. It's on a billboard. It said, nigga don't let the sun hit your backside.
A? They put an A on it.
Yeah. Well, this was in let me preface it that this was in like 1837, but it was after slavery. So there you go. Uh,
Wow.
yep. So
Wow.
speaking of these type
Yeah.
of towns, how many of you actually know about sundown towns? Like know what they are?
So I know or knew of what they were. Really just thought it was in the South, didn't think of it as an entire United States thing. But yeah, I'd heard of it prior to, but it's one of those historical things that no one talks about because it's technically illegal for them to have done that, but they did what they needed to do and covered it up. So they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
write about that in history books. It's
Mm-hmm.
all oral history, personal experience. Yeah, heavy in the Midwest apparently. And I
Oh
grew
yeah.
up in the Midwest. I will say about growing up in the Midwest, it's even still to this day, like in Michigan, it's very segregated. Like not necessarily sundown town segregation, but like you're in, the area with Chaldeans, which are Catholic Middle Eastern people.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the neighborhood with white people, like it's very segregated. So I can only imagine what it was like in the 60s and prior to
I
with
feel like you could always tell which town, if it's not currently a sundown town, you know that it was because you look at the population of black people that actually live there, and it's
mhm.
like 0.02% or 0.01%. All black folk in the United States, and nobody chooses to stay there
Facts.
because of its a history still uh going on present to this day, or something that they've done before, and now black people don't want to go there. Or if you go to a white town and then right outside the white town and the outskirts of it is an all black town, that's
Mhm.
your work and go type of people. You come in, they go to work, they your janitors, your supply warehouse people, and then they go home.
Mhm.
type of towns. You know what I'm saying? Versus your mixture of folk.
Yeah. Have you guys well, Batman, Brandon, where are you from?
So I'm from the South. I'm from North Carolina, which already gets a bad rap. Like whenever you say that, like when you say that, I feel like people just automatically say, "Oh, well, you from a racist state," you know.
Mhm.
I
Um,
would like to declare
but
that North Carolina is not the South; it is the East. But okay.
whatever, it
Don't
is
say that to
definitely
my
the South.
husband because he'll argue that the
It is
DC and
definitely the
Maryland are
South.
also.
Hmm.
They are technically, but that's debatable. But no. So I agree with Ashley slash Brittany, whichever one you want to be called today. Um, I feel like what we were talking about before we went live. You know, this thing didn't exist as growing up. You know, because they didn't talk about that kind of stuff in the history books. Because of course, if I have to talk about it, and my parents and I participated in this crap, you know, now it's real, and I can be blamed for it, and I have to take accountability, and I have to take responsibility for it, you know. So I didn't actually start to see that kind of stuff until, and I was telling Richard this on Facebook. I didn't start seeing that stuff until I got older,
Mhm.
and I never actually was, you know, in one of what you would call a son. But I've seen some stuff happen, and I've heard some stuff happen that I just was like, really? They still do this in the 2000s?
Mm. So
Fact.
the way I found out about Sundown Towns, because I found out earlier this year too. I had no idea that they were, that they existed. I was scrolling through TikTok, and not a bus driver, sorry, truck driver. He was driving through and he made a pit stop, and a guy came by and he left him a note on his windshield, and he said, "Hey, look, I highly advise you grab your things and go. Like, please do not be here by the time the sun sets." And the guy, he showed the note on TikTok and everything, and he was like, "This must be one of those Sundown towns." I was like, "I ain't never heard of that." And I grew up in Houston. Houston's not a sundown town. It's all black people, Hispanic people, and white people. So we all intermingled there. But I used to visit Mississippi a lot with my grandmother and my grandfather are from. But Soso, Mississippi is like 13 people that lives in Soso, Mississippi. So we don't know if it's a sundown town because one, we hated being out there anyway. It's all country, and it was only 13 people that lived there. But I guess I would assume that around it were towns where you couldn't go. And then I found out there were certain towns in Texas that you have to drive straight through. Like if you you don't stop, don't pass, go, don't collect $200. You just straight through. And most people will say when they're driving through Texas, if it's not a major city, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, El Paso, Dallas, something like that, they're going to keep driving until they get to one of those towns. No other town in Texas will they stop at
It's funny
because
that you say that because
because of that.
San Antonio's on that list of sundown towns, like current day.
It's San Antonio, excuse my French, but San Antonio is a bunch of Mexicans. Like
I'm just saying, in 2020, it was labeled a sundown town. So
no.
2 years ago, it was labeled a sundown town.
Maybe they meant partying. Like when the sun go down, we throw a party.
There's they had to defund the police like movement because of their crooked ways, and basically we're told that black people should not be traveling through there at night.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy that because what happens and from what I've read and seen, that most of these sundown towns are done by policemen. Either they turn a blind eye and they're just like, nope, we don't know what happened, like, oh well, or it's orchestrated by them.
Right.
They just don't wear their uniform when they do it. Or they'll
Or
find
they
them.
wear their uniforms.
And what ticks me off is that, you know, we're always told comply and understand, you know, comply. If you just do what the police say, and people don't realize that the reason why black community don't like trust the police is because of that kind of stuff, you know, because we are still getting to the point where, you know, you can stop in a town and immediately a police officer pulls you over because you're black, you know, and they see you got an out-of-state tag, you know. Like I drove to Florida. I was not stopping in any little small towns. Like when I drove to Florida from North Carolina. Like I'm not stopping. Like I'm just going straight. If I got to use the bathroom, I'm going to a actual like truck stop or rest area. I'm not going to no small town and pulling off the road. Yeah.
Most of the time, if my gas station, when I put it in to get gas, if it's not like right there off the freeway exit, I'm not stopping. If
I'm
I
not even exiting.
Go down half a mile and then still, nah, pimp, you out of my way. You need to be right there on the corner. I pull off, use bathroom, fill up, and get back on the road and shoot straight through. Cause look, when I drove up here to Ohio, man, look, stayed strapped everywhere I went.
And that's even before I knew what a sundown town was.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's just uncomfortable. You start seeing Confederate flags and you're like, oh, my kind are not liked here.
Mm-hmm. I ain't never seen so many people proud of losing. Like them Cowboy fans. Like, Jesus Christ. They are. Like, I feel like the Confederate flag and Cowboy fans are damn near the same. Motherfuckers ain't won shit. Because they constantly brag about how nice they are.
Wait, what did you say, Trey?
They're not smart enough to comprehend that they lost.
Yeah, you still see Trump 2020 signs out there. It's 2022.
Yeah.
Like, when do you take the sign down?
They're still with Trump Rambo flags. They're not the brightest bunch.
Yeah. And it's funny that you guys said that because from personal experience, there have been like 3 separate experiences where I was probably in a sundown town, or I was in what was historically one. First one that I remember was a couple years ago. We were road tripping it to Michigan. We had the kids with us. It was right in the height of Black Lives Matter. We had Black Lives Matter shirts on. Our kids have My Life Matter shirts on. And we went into a rest stop, right off the highway, whatever. I have never felt more uncomfortable in my life with the amount of white people staring at us in silence I might have had like one white woman like, I like your shirt, but it was like, she was quiet about it. Like just a little thumbs up. And it was super uncomfortable. And then the other 2, so there's a list, and I'll drop the link in the comments, but there's a list of sundown towns that have been collected on a website. You can go to your state. There's literally, at least historically, sundown towns in every single state. So you can go to your state, you can look to see what these cities are. One of them in Michigan was Livonia. Historically, not current day. But I've been arrested in Livonia before. Yeah, I'm giving out my 2 truths and a lie because nobody ever believes that about me. But I've been arrested in Livonia before, and it was for possession of marijuana. And I had like 3 grams on me, right? And they like took me out my car, like checked everything. They had the dogs, like it was very intense. And then once I got put in the holding cell, they're like, yeah, she had marijuana on her. She's hardcore. I was like, I had 3 grams.
Oh, you was pushing it. You was pushing it.
Use.
You named goddamn Frank
You
Lucas
was the plug.
I was like, are you serious? Like, so that was also
hey,
one
Tony,
of those.
you see your Tony?
That was one of those things where it's like, all right. And then the third one is the city that we are actually moving to. It's Greenbelt, Maryland, and it's historically a sundown town. And last weekend, we took the kids to the pool in Greenbelt, and this old white man, like his son or his nephew or grandson, whatever he was like going through the door slowly. And he's like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. He let the door like slam in my face. Like, I was like, okay, well, we're not welcome here because this man is over here like rushing to ensure that he does not hold that door for me. So those are my 3 personal experiences. But before I keep talking, Dre, PA don't have a really good record either. Have you ever had any experiences or?
Nah, we just have like a bunch of peppered passive racism. Like, there's no direct racism anymore out here.
Like Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, true. But yeah. So have you guys ever heard the saying, well, I feel like you have, all Black people have, like, to be in before the street lights come on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that came from my mama.
Right. That came from your mama, but it also came from many Black people before her who had a fear of being out at night. Because once the sun goes down, you can be lynched. You can, essentially just be killed
Just
Um,
because.
police pull you over and essentially, have their way with you. Like you will
And
go missing.
what irritates me is people act like this shit is like so far in the past. Motherfucker, this was the 50s.
Hmm.
Like my grandparents grew up in this. My
So
grandmother is still alive. Like,
so one of the things that I noticed that somebody pointed out to me is if you ever look at all the pictures from the civil rights movements, it's always in black and white
Hmm.
because it literally dates it and puts it so far in the past. When literally they had
They had color.
color cameras and videography back then, but because they can't, I mean, when we look through our history books and stuff, it's always black and white. When have you ever seen a color picture of Martin Luther King?
No, you're right.
it's hard to find one.
You're absolutely
And that's what
right.
irritates me. And then they act like, oh, well, that was so long ago. You should get over it. Like, pimp, you understand that I was raised by my grandmother. So, like, the things that she had to endure and the way that she had to do things because of what was held against her, she had to raise us in that type of environment, or raise my mom and them in that type of environment, which led
Always
to me,
flip it around.
like,
what about your grandparents? Your grandparents was doing it. What were they doing back then?
What they teach your daddy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why that's always my response is I flip it around. Like you want to talk about how long ago it was, but when was your grandmother born? Because your grandmother was probably the one telling my grandmother she couldn't sit beside her.
Yep. Yep. Go home and ask your grandmother, does she remember what the color fountains are and what the white only fountains are? She did.
I laughed because I just read Jamal's comment when he said Ruby Bridges is somebody's grandmother and she got an Instagram.
Like, come on, people, like, stop acting like this shit was forever ago. It wasn't. The policemen have been documented talking about, if not racist, how prejudiced they are towards black people. They've said it themselves. They are trained to be that way. And then now, I believe Sundown Towns was right before actual redlining. Like, hey, like, nah, this is the ghetto. So before that, you just have sundown towns where you be like, nah, fuck the red line. You just can't come here because if you come here, we're gonna kill you. And because the sheriff, is white, who runs the police department, who's all white, like they ain't gonna say shit. But then the judge is his cousin, he ain't gonna say shit.
Yeah, they all know each other.
And the DA is his baby brother, he ain't gonna say shit. So it's not like he gonna charge his own sheriff with goddamn crime.
Right.
So there you go.
Absolutely. But yeah, it did start right before redlining. Redlining was in the 30s, and Sundown Town started in 1890. So from 18,
I thought it was like 1746.
No.
Okay.
I've seen documents that talked about sundown towns in like 1760s, 1740s.
Okay, well, maybe. But from what I saw and read, it said that between
I thought it was the early late 1800s. That's what I've always thought.
1960.
It's America. They probably do it without doing it,
Yeah, there were 10,000. Oh yeah, definitely they were doing it. There were more than 10,000 towns. Like it's hard to look because historically they didn't write down we're a sundown town. But there were more than 10,000 towns, and it began with the Great Migration of Blacks. So Black people trying to get out of the South. White towns essentially closed their doors, didn't allow Black people to get housing, through racism and, systemic racism, didn't allow them to get housing, threatened to kill them if the sun was down. Like Rich had said earlier, you could work in some of those towns as a Black person. And that's if they didn't like bar you from doing that, but you had to be out of the town limits. Like they will chase you until that sign says you're in another county or another town.
If that's the case, and something else I don't understand, right? You don't want white folks didn't want Black people in their towns, but you also didn't want Black people to have their own town because then you had the Tulsa bombing and the Tulsa massacre in 1921, where you left your town with all your white peoples and all the stuff you had over there to literally go and slaughter Black people who minding their own business in their town. But because they started building wealth and being rival to you, you couldn't let that happen. So
they did that same thing in Wilmington, North Carolina.
They don't want you to have your own shit either.
Yeah, Is there a story behind the Wimbledon?
Um,
Ah,
basically, the black people had become very like wealthy and politically involved in Wilmington. And I'm not going to quote any years or anything like that. I'm
mhm.
bad with dates, but yeah, they just came in and was like, you know what, fuck y'all, we're taking it back, and
Wilmington.
yeah,
Yeah,
and burnt all of Wilmington down. I mean,
yeah.
it was bad.
One of the stories I've come across that from Sundown Towns is Lake Lanier in Georgia.
Yes,
Slightly different because it wasn't necessarily a wealthy town, but it is a town that was full of black people, um, and it was within or right next to a sundown county, one of the two. And a young white woman was raped and found in the woods on the outskirts of the city. So they came in, ran everyone out, killed everybody, and then flooded the entire town and created Lake Lanier,
yes,
which is called the most haunted area in Georgia, um, because I think over 700 people have died there via drowning and whatever and what have you. But there's literally an entire burnt down town underneath that lake. Schools, buildings, trees. They built a dam in the 60s and or the 50s and flooded it on out.
The same with Seneca Village in New York. They flooded that town and built Central Park over it.
yep.
And not a soul went to jail.
No,
Nope,
jail.
not even told in
What?
history books.
What?
700 people. Not a soul went to jail. Matter of fact, they were like, shit, I don't know what happened.
It didn't exist. It's not found in your history book, so it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And
And
that's
it's like,
why,
I guess wild. A lot of this stuff you would learn about just scrolling through Facebook or something, like not in the history books or anything because it's not taught in schools.
Which is so hard. Like, it's not so far fetched to believe that Katrina was an actual incident, like they caused it, right? Like, there were some theories that, like, where the dams just collapsed, and then there's some theories where no, like, we heard
you heard an
explosion,
explosion. Yeah.
like somebody blew up the dam to wipe out New Orleans.
Hmm.
But it's you can't say that story's so far fetched when you have other stories like this that have happened before. So it's not like it's never happened before. It's happened before where America has flooded a city, burnt the city down to the ground, and said nothing like, "Oh, it was just a freak accident. We don't know what happened."
oh
No
yeah,
shit. You know exactly what happened. You thought you could erase an entire city, and then realize that you couldn't because of the backlash that came with it.
Jamal was just saying that they heard the Levees being blown up before Katrina.
Yeah. So I found the top 5 sundown towns kind of today that black people shouldn't be traveling to. Number 1 is the state of Kentucky. 60 of their 700 towns are still sundown towns. There aren't real names to them that I have, but it's the highest ratio of how many in one state is still in Kentucky. Missouri is number 2. And in 2017, the NAACP had warned all black people not to travel to Missouri at all. They had recently in 2017 made a change of their Bill of Rights, basically to make racism a little bit more legal. So as opposed to originally, your protected characteristics being, black, being a woman, being pregnant, what all of those protected characteristics, you had to prove without reasonable doubt that it was the main cause of discrimination as opposed to a contributing factor. So they changed the words a little bit so that they could be a little bit more racist
Mm-hmm.
towards black people. And there's also 75% more likely chance for you to get pulled over in the state of Missouri as a black person. So there's that.
I
Number
believe it.
number 3 was San Antonio. Like I said, in 2020, they did the defund the police just because of all of the racist things that they were doing. Number 4 is it Vidor, Texas?
No shit. If I know, there's so many
Vidor,
towns in Texas.
Texas. But they're known for the KKK. and that's the city the truck driver was in.
Okay.
When he was told to pack it up and get out of there.
Yep.
And then the last one is Anna, Illinois, which apparently Anna stands for Ain't No Niggers Allowed.
Wow.
That makes me look at Anna very differently.
Hey, Mayor
Right?
of Anna, I'm gonna need you to come out and tell us the history of your town, pimp. Because if it
Ain't
stands
no
for ain't no
niggers
niggas
allowed.
allowed, ooh, boy.
Yeah. And then the scary part about all of it is just back when this was happening, the internet didn't exist. Like, you know what I mean? Someone couldn't shoot you a text and be like, girl, don't go here. Like,
No, you
so
had to find out firsthand.
you had to find out firsthand. And eventually, the Negro Motorist Green Book was created. And that was created by a black man, in which he basically collected all of the businesses, restaurants, anybody that would serve black people across the United States. He created this list so that black families knew where it was safe for them to go. In the 50s and 60s, road trips were how people got across the US, more or less.
Right.
And black people always had to bring their own food because they didn't know if they would serve them. Bring blankets because they might have to sleep in their car on the side of the road.
Just to get bothered by a cop. I pulled over. I was driving from California to Houston. I pulled over in El Paso at a gas station, fully lit. I think it was like a Valero, fully lit. Parked in because I was tired. Let my seat back, rolled my windows up, locked the doors, and was asleep. Dude comes over. I let the seat up, obviously, roll the window down. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm just asleep.
I'm sleepy.
Oh, can you step out the car for me? We do a whole they want to make sure you're not drunk thing, sleeping in the car, which I don't understand. If the drunk person was coherent enough to pull over and go to sleep, leave him alone.
Kudos to them for getting their shit together.
For fine, like, you know what, pimp, I can't do it. Let me just go ahead and pull over.
I tried. It wasn't worth it.
Let me go to sleep, get this thing off, wake up in an hour or two.
Especially with what I'm assuming are out-of-state plates. Like, I'm clearly driving.
You know what I'm saying? Where you from? What you doing? Why are you driving through El Paso? Because there's no law saying that I can't. But I'm currently on my way home. You know why he stopped bothering me? Because I showed him my military ID. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Go ahead. Make sure you get home safely." Well, shit.
She pulled that out first.
If I just, I mean,
but went to sleep with it in the window.
People wonder why military guys do that. Why they just pull out their military ID first? Because it'll be an easier transition. If I just say, "Hey, look, I'm in the Marine Corps, or I'm in the Army, I'm in whatever," right? Most cops will be like, "Oh, I was too. You know what? Don't worry about it. Go on about your business."
And sometimes it don't even go that way. Like what happened with the dude, I forget the town he was in. He was still in uniform and still got pulled over and pulled out.
Blatantly racist.
I think that was in Virginia. Like, that was not too far from me.
Lieutenant got out of the car, was in his uniform, and the guy still bothered him.
Showed ID the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And then tried to disrespect, talking about, what are you, a corporal? Like, I'm a lieutenant, not a corporal. Not a basic bitch. Please stop it.
I mean, what were you working at Wendy's before you became a cop? I mean, it doesn't take much.
Because we know your fat ass ain't going to make it on this foot chase. That's why he grabbed his gun. We know your big ass ain't going to make it on this foot chase. We know it. If I start moving, you're going to call in for help right away. Which I don't understand, man. Cops already they should have higher standards when it comes to morality and physicality. Because you got these big ass white sloppy cops and they ready to just shoot people because they physically not in shape and they're racist.
Yeah.
So
two stories I would like to share. One of them connects to that whole driving across. So I went to school at Western Carolina, which is in the mountains of North Carolina. You already don't want to go to the mountains of North Carolina. Like, that's already like one of those things, right? But the school is pretty good. I'll say the school is pretty good, you know. We had one of the guys, one of my close friends, he was actually traveling from home back to the school, you know. Car breaks down. He walks to the nearest garage that possibly could help him, and was told, "Hey, we don't serve your kind around here." And that was in 2005. So
Wow.
so he had to walk to the next one, or I
Right.
forget if he said he walked to the next one, walked back to his car, but and then to go with your story about the being quiet and awkwardly quiet, I was in that town, and I had been to this restaurant several times before. It's called Grandma's. It was a breakfast restaurant, sort of like a pancake house, right? But
Hmm.
local. And I've been to the restaurant several times, but I always was in a mixed crowd. Well, I remember the first time we went as a full black group. It was like 5 of us walking in the restaurant, the whole entire restaurant, waitresses, waiters, everybody in the restaurant, people sitting at the tables, kids, old people, just all stopped and started looking at us. Now, I had a buddy of mine, tall, deep voice, decided to say, "Oh, y'all ain't never seen black people before?" And
Make
so
them
then now,
uncomfortable.
yeah, so and we all laughed. And then just so happens, some of our white friends were in the area in the restaurant, and they called our names. When they called our names, that's when the white people were like, "Oh, I guess they're the good kind of black people," and everything went back to normal. But it took like
Right.
2 or 3 minutes. Like that was a long 2 or 3 minutes to sit there and be stared at, and what you're being stared at for. It's not because you're being rude or obnoxious. We just walked in.
Hmm.
I feel like black people should start treating white people the way they treat black people. Be like, oh,
That's
they
their
must be the
fear.
good.
That's why
They
they
must
treat
be
us
the
like
good white
this.
people. Like automatically, just be scared of the next white man that passes you. Just automatic. Clench your purse, grab
I
your
am.
bag, and just like, oh my god, I'm scared of him. I don't know what he about to do.
You don't think we get nervous when white people walk in the hood? We already know that's the beginning of gentrification right there.
That's scary, right? My rent about to go up. Like shit's
This
about to
all
happen.
through, there's gonna be a coffee shop, and that's it.
Fucking Whole Foods. Like we ain't had a grocery store in the hood ever. Now it's a Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the areas that we're in, you want to gentrify them and push us out so that you can take over that land and have
Right.
it.
After you redlined us into these areas, now you want to come in, push us elsewhere, and create even worse ghettos where people are living on top of each other, just so that you can come in.
Tree.
Hmm?
No, they get rid of it goes from they go from getting rid of the ghetto to just creating homelessness. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in, I'm going to get rid of the ghetto, but I'm going to raise rent everywhere.
Hmm.
So once I
Yes.
push you out of here, unless you have the credit and the financial means to go buy a house in a nicer neighborhood,
What you don't, because you would have.
you end up moving to another area, which could be another state, somewhere that's where it's a lot cheaper, or you become homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And they make you I've seen it happen where a guy was like, no, I'm not selling my house. And the city comes back and they're like, look, we want to buy your house, we'll give you $75,000. He's like, this house is absolutely worth way more than that. Like, no, I'm not selling it. And it was just a house that's been in the family. He's like, no, I'm not selling it. So then the city ordinance comes down. They're like, we're going to build a fair right here. You have two options. You can either move, or we can build it literally right on top of your house. Here's 50,000, less than what they offered before. You're gonna move.
Eminent domain gets used all the time for gentrification. That's just how it's going to happen. That's what they're doing in my town right now. We've got this nice ass baseball stadium. I mean, don't get me wrong, they spent $1 million on this baseball stadium for a town that literally is nothing in it. Nothing is in it. Rich can attest to that.
Gastonia looked like Martin Luther King just woke up from there. Like it looked like 1932.
And they built this $1 million baseball stadium, and it's a nice baseball stadium. It's good for the community, but part of that is tearing down the neighborhood that's around it, and all that neighborhood that's around it is the black neighborhoods. And what they're doing is white people are coming in and buying those houses, redoing them, calling it historical districts and self-sustaining communities. And you got rent. Rent is like $1,500 for a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom over there now. Whereas a house there was like $600-700 a month at one point in time.
And
Actually, I'm gonna tell you what area it is. I know y'all have all seen Talladega Nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
The house that his mom is in, that's the area. That's actually the house. That's that exact area.
But it's weird because Brandon knows about houses. But what's weird is buying a house, a mortgage is cheaper than a lease or than renting, right? Which is
Yeah.
true. It is. A mortgage is cheaper than renting. But what you need to be able to buy a mortgage is way more complicated than
Hmm.
renting. The
Yeah.
credit score that you need, the bank history that you need, the work history that you need, the money that you need saved up, closing, real estate, realtor fees, like escrow, like you have to have so much. 10% down if you're doing a regular loan, 10% down off of a home. Like, and the average house in Houston, average house cost is going to be probably about $350,000. So you need 35 to $40,000 to start. That's just 10% down. That's not closing costs. That's not inspection fees. That's not 6% for the like. So if you want to buy a house, you need upwards of $50,000 liquid. Well, shit,
True.
like that's a
And
lot harder
and that's a
than
whole
renting.
nother conversation we can have, because I
Now,
mean,
that's a lot
because
harder than
you're looking at, like Richard said, you're looking at 20 to 30, $45,000 down just to have down payment, closing costs, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of these houses you're being outbidded, so you have to come with an extra 30, 45, $50,000 cash, just because the house may appraise for 350 and your bid has to be 400, you know. So now, because it appraised for 350, the bank ain't gonna give you a loan for 400. The bank's only gonna give you 350. So now you gotta add the rest of that cash to it.
and
So
it's a whole system that just fucking cycles back into pushing black people out of the areas that you put them in the first place.
but I will say this, and that's one of the things I liked about getting into that field is that there is money out there. There's free money out there. The problem is they keep that information from us, just like they kept the information about sundown towns
Mm-hmm.
and lynchings and all that stuff. They keep that information from us so that we can't do better, you
Right.
know. But then they'll give it to each other, you know, and say, oh, by the way, you know, you can get free money, even though you got a trust fund. You can go to Bank America and get some free money to put down on your house, and you don't even
Mm-hmm.
have such a trust fund, you know.
Yep. Or you borrow against your trust. Now, this is stuff we're going to learn next month in our financial thing. But you could borrow against your own trust fund. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
you'll take out a loan if you have a trust fund of $1 million. You can take out a loan of 500,000 against your trust fund, not be taxed on it, and just pay it back. It's simple to whatever you're going to do. So the bank will give you the loan essentially because you already have $1 million. So they're just going to give you their money. So you don't have to touch yours. You have theirs. You spend theirs to go get whatever you're going to go do, and then you come back. But they don't tell that to everybody. They don't tell you
Probably
about
not.
whole life insurance policies where you can borrow against your life insurance policy to go out and then go do certain things, right? It's
I just
one, they
recently
make it
found
harder
out
for
that
black people to get
life
life insurance.
insurance is to actually live life. Like you can use life insurance to live life, not just for if you die.
Right.
I just recently found that out.
Yeah. But then they make it harder
I
for
found
black
that I
people
was
to get
today
into
years
it.
old, so thanks, guys.
Black people naturally have higher blood pressure. But high blood pressure is one of the things that will cause you to not get a life insurance policy. To where they'll
Hmm.
True.
deny you from the beginning. You have high blood pressure? Nope, denied.
Yeah, high blood
History
pressure,
of family of
diabetes.
Yep, diabetes, family history of heart issues and obesity and this,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna deny you. Like, sir, I'm a clean bill of health. Yeah, but no, but your dad and your mom, they
Your
had heart
mama fat.
issues, and then your daddy, his daddy had heart issues, so it's hereditary. You're gonna eventually have heart issues, so we're just gonna go ahead, unless you're gonna do where you pay for your life insurance policy up front.
Right.
Like, well, fuck, sir, if I had $400,000, I wouldn't be coming to you.
Right.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean those are things that's part of that systemic racism. Those are the things they use to keep people, especially the housing market, to keep people out of these towns. When you look at housing like public housing, they'll give you vouchers to be in the counties they want you to be in. You can only look in this county because this is what we gave you. They don't give you the ones to be out in the rich counties, although at least in Maryland, I'm assuming most places, although all of these places have subsidized housing areas, and all of, there's a couple units per um, apartment complex that are set aside for subsidized housing. They're not subsidized housing for you as a Black person. That's
No.
set aside for the white people who are on welfare. And
What Charlotte did, Charlotte just added to their public transportation by adding a light rail. About 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, somewhere in that area. I don't know, but they're building off all these apartments right along the light rail, right? So Charlotte, being the nice and generous city that they are, decided to tell everybody that was building on these light rails, oh, you have to put X amount of subsidized housing or affordable housing units in your apartment complex. Well, the catch here was they knew they didn't want these areas to be flooded with, people that look like us. So what they did was, the catch was, you can only build to like 3 floors, right? Anything above that has to have X amount, right? Or you can pay a penalty and get out of it and not have to have it. What do you think these companies are going to do? They got millions of dollars.
They're paying the fine.
Yeah, they're not going to.
Good. That's insane.
And of course, the people that live there already, they're not going to want you to put affordable housing there, so they're going to pressure you and say, no, you don't put affordable housing there.
Right, because the people who live there actually go to their community meetings and stuff like that. That's one thing with Black people in general. We don't show up to the things we need to show up to. So things are a shock to us.
My parents did. I remember growing up, they decided that they were going to change our school lines. And basically they built a new high school, and that high school was situated right in white people's town, the white side of town, right? So in order to meet their quotas, they had to change the lines to draft people that could literally walk to school. A 2-minute walk to school was going to this high school. Being bused all the way to the high school. My parents actually did. They went to the meetings, to the school board and everything. But I mean, it wasn't nothing you could do. What could you do? The power wasn't in their hands. The power was sitting with the people making the decision. And it's ridiculous. And even still now, I mean, the amount of kids that are literally like, they grow up with these kids around them, and then they get shipped halfway across the darn county just to go to high school,
Yeah, no, I get it. My parents, I went to private school all of my life, but they did that because they taught me it's not what you know, it's who you know. So they put me in the schools with all the affluent white people so that I could have those connections. And I mean, to this day, I'm still Facebook friends. I don't talk to her, but to this day, I'm still Facebook friends with the sheriff in where I grew up's daughter. So it's been helpful in life from time to time. I've never had a name drop, but just people recognizing you as, well, one of the good ones, or whatever the case may be. As someone from Michigan, I've always been told, "Oh, you sound like a white person." And it's been something that white people and Black people have made a note to tell me, that you sound like you're white. And it's one of those things, like, no, I mean, it's how I talk. Like, I feel like no matter where I would have been, more or less, I'd sound like this. Like,
well,
so.
And that I've got that same experience. I mean, I grew up, I didn't go to private schools, but I grew up, my first school was all white. Like, we literally in 6th grade levels, kindergarten through 5th grade, had 6 or 7 Black people at the time, and then I went to a middle school because we drew the lines. I went to a middle school that was pretty much 50-50, about 50-50. And then I went to a high school that was all, but like you said, you get to that one age and everybody's like, "Oh, you sound so white. You sound so, you're not like one of them other ones. You're not them other ones. You're a good one," And it's like, That's not a compliment to me. Like
Absolutely
that is
not.
not a compliment. Now, do I appreciate my parents for sending? Yes, because I'm able to go through life and I don't have to be have a culture shock. Like I'm able to go from one city to the next city, from one group of people to the next group of people, and I can fit in no matter where I'm at. But don't get me wrong, I understand I'm black, so I'm always watching.
Absolutely.
I'm always watching, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of white people don't realize is that no matter how much I fit in, like I'm still always on guard because I don't never know. I remember one day I was at a friend's house. We were watching the Panthers game, and he decided to take me to his family's house, and we're just all sitting in the living room watching the Panthers game. I don't like sports, but we were there getting drunk and having a good time. That's all that mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a football player did like something, and they got called for it, and then they started complaining and acting a fool over the ref's call. And his little brother was like, "Stop acting like a nigger," with the hard R. And I'm standing there, and everybody looks at me, and I'm like, I'm not saying shit because all of y'all are white, and he's my ride.
Not he's my ride.
like, I can't just up and leave.
Yeah, that's a long walk.
Yeah, I was in Charlotte. I was not getting ready to up and leave, but being in a situation like that let me know early on that you have to always stay on guard, because even if they are the cool one, out of their family, even if they are the good one out of their family, the rest of their family might be a piece of shit racist.
Mm-hmm.
Big facts. Big facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
I just
that
fully
whole
believe
thing.
any white male over the age of like 40 is just automatically racist. Like I just
Yes, yeah,
automatically assume you're racist. If you were born before 1980, and even those still born in 1980, a little bit, maybe 85-ish is where I get cut off at. If you were born before then, you're racist.
or at least have some tendencies. At least have some tendencies.
Where your parents were. Yeah.
Their parents
Yeah,
for a fact were racist.
they're absolutely there.
Yeah. I'm only saying that because you said 85, and that's only like 4 years older
Yeah,
than me.
85. That was 35 years ago.
That's only 1 year older than me, so yeah.
Okay.
But still, that's why I said, or at least have some tendencies, because I've got friends that I know for a fact, they'll do their all for me, but there's still tendencies there, and I still have to check them at times, and let them know, look, I don't care what you think, how cool you think we are, we're not getting ready to do that.
Yeah, because in their world, it's they can do that. They say what they want. This is what they're taught. They're superior, even through subtle little things. They're taught that they're superior, so they grow up with that complex.
Yeah.
It's only
Yeah.
areas like sports where they're humbled really fast, and then even then they try to stick to like their particular category. Like most quarterbacks are white, so they believe that that's what they dominate, the quarterback position. Every white man that comes out on a football team, you automatically believe, oh, he going off quarterback. Or unless he's big, and then you automatically assume he's going to be a lineman.
Right.
Anything else?
I'm gonna tell you the sport that they don't want us in right now. Two of them, tennis and golf. That's why they try so hard to always knock Tiger and Venus and Serena down, because they don't want us there. That's the last place that they have that they can call themselves those country clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
And it's evident.
But you're losing tennis to Latinos or different different nationalities. You're losing tennis to that. So the last little hope that they have is golf.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last little hope they got. Most black males that I know, when they play golf, they do it recreation only. They don't, they're not actually trying to become pro golfers. So that's the last little bit of like, okay, this is our safe haven. It was baseball, but then they lost that big time.
So before we transition, Charles had shared a racist experience. He moved to the country after Katrina, and that's when he got to see in depth how racist people were out there. He got cool with a kid that he rode on a school bus with and had a shotgun pulled on him when he was 15 by his house, and he openly invited him there.
That's crazy. I mean, it's believable for sure,
Yeah.
but that's crazy. I think the closest I had to a racist experience growing up. I'm sure like comments passed and I didn't notice them, but I had a friend, or there was a girl in my class. She became my friend afterwards, but there was a girl in my class who refused to be my bathroom buddy because I was black. Mind you, it was myself and like my best friend who's Egyptian. The only two people of color, maybe like a couple Asian people, but that's about it. And she didn't want to be my bathroom buddy because I was black. So I came home, I told my mom. She called her mom, pulled out the directory, called her mom, and her mom was like, "Oh, I don't know why she would say that. We have black friends." Like that is the first thing racist people say. Is that they know a black person or they have a black friend or they brother-in-law is black, and it's like that
But no,
you
listen to that. We have a black friend. We have one singular black friend.
token black friend.
One.
One.
Why would she say that?
One.
She's seen
I'd have told her
she's
to
seen
piss
him
on
come
herself.
around. It was me that needed to pee, not
I'd
her.
have just left. I'd have just
I needed someone to go with me.
I didn't
Yeah.
racist experience was because of my little cousin. We were, we were kids. We were playing down on the street, right? And we happened to get too close to this old white man's house. He comes out and it says directly to my little cousin's face, "Do you want to live or do you want to die?" We ended up going back and telling our parents afterwards. We never saw the old man again, so I assumed either A, he died, or B, got ran out of the neighborhood.
Yeah. And running out of the neighborhood's a real thing. I recently heard a story about a black teacher in the she's from Maryland, but she went down south somewhere to teach, and she was teaching the STEM program. And for whatever reason, because she was black, all the parents thought she was teaching CRT. That had to be down south. It's recent. And they all thought she was teaching CRT. So they boycotted her and they ran her out of the city to the next city. And then that city did the same thing.
My bad. We got another person to add his personal experience. My boy Jared joining in from we grew up in the Marine Corps together. What's up, boy?
What's going on, beautiful people?
What up?
And,
What
and
up?
he from
Well,
Georgia,
thank
so you know they
you.
got an ass ton of sundown towns in Georgia.
Not an ass ton. We do have
It's
a couple
Georgia.
that
The whole state is goddamn sundown,
Except
not
Atlanta.
true. Not true. Not true.
except
Yeah, I
for
was gonna say
Atlanta,
except Atlanta. Atlanta's the only place.
and that's where all the black people got to go. Get out of town, and take your ass back to Atlanta.
Well, I will say if you are traveling through Georgia and let's say you're going towards Tallahassee, Florida, I will say one county. Well, it's not as bad as it used to be, but one county that we used to have issues traveling through was Thomas County, which is known as Thomasville. Um, Back in the 1930s and 40s, no, excuse me, 1830s and 40s, they actually pushed out all of the Jews within that county.
And ain't Jewish people white?
Right. Yeah. No, Jewish people are like the black people of white people. They're the first ones that they
Yes.
like go up against.
They will unclaim a Jew in a heartbeat.
But I'm telling you, it's so
Facts.
weird. I'm like, ain't Jewish people white? And they will not like a Jewish person almost as fast as they won't like a black person.
Mhm.
Jewish and Irish. They will they will not claim either one of them in a heartbeat.
Except for
True.
Patty's Day. That was the only
It's
time
safe.
I heard.
St. Patty's Day.
But I mean, I can actually share a story that happened to me once.
Let's do
As a
it.
matter of fact, this was I want to say 2012, 2013 maybe. I was traveling from Virginia to Georgia. I was stationed there for a year. Well, not stationed there. I was TAD there for a year. Driving home, normal weekend. I got down to South Carolina, Georgia border, and I got pulled over. Wasn't speeding, but I just happened to look up in my rearview mirror, and there's a cop behind me. So he turns on his lights. I pull over, and comes up, gives his standard license, registration, where you headed, whatnot. So I want to tell him, hey, I give him my military ID first, give him my driver license, insurance, everything. Then he proceeds to ask the question, do you know why? Do you know why I pulled you over? So obviously, I'm like, no, I'm not about to incriminate myself. So
smelled the weed. No, I'm sorry.
3 grams in this motherfucker.
so like I said, I'm like, no, what's the reason for the stop? So he says, I got you doing, or no, I got you doing doing 75, doing 75 into 65. And the vehicle that was in front of you, you were following too close. Now, I don't know what goddamn vehicle he saw, but there was nobody in front of me. Nobody. So I figured this dude just pulled me over because you saw a 2013 Dodge Charger with 22-inch rims.
I thought so. I was
And
going
a
to
black
ask you that,
man
was it
driving.
the Camaro or the Charger?
Yes, it was my Charger.
It was
Yeah.
the Charger?
Yeah, it was a Charger. Yeah, you saw a black man driving that vehicle with the rims and the tinted windows and everything. That is why you pulled me over. You didn't pull me over for speeding, and you also didn't pull me over because I was falling behind a dog on a car too close.
An imaginary car.
Was it nighttime?
Yeah, exactly.
Or was it during the day?
No, this was during the day. This was during the day.
Yeah. And that happens so much. Like driving while black, just as a reason to get pulled over, literally happens every day. Like,
I would be out of your town if you didn't stop me, sir. I'm literally passing through your bullshit ass dusty town where all your women have extended backs. I'm passing through this motherfucker.
Dad.
I'm not.
Have you guys seen Lovecraft Country?
Of course.
I've seen like the first 3 episodes. I need to finish that.
Yeah. I don't think Rich, have you seen it?
No, I've never even heard of it.
So
What
it's
is it
on
called?
Lovecraft Country. It's on HBO Max. It unfortunately got canceled, but anytime you talk too much about white people and racism, it gets
Look
canceled.
at her. What was his name? Orlando, the guy from American Gods. They cut him quick.
Yeah.
Because his Nancy was very controversial.
Orlando Jones. Oh, the guy you met at BlurredCon.
Yeah. I met him at BlurredCon.
Yeah. So Lovecraft Country, basically, it gets really biblical, little on the like crazy side with that, but it documents essentially sundown towns in Massachusetts, and how they were driving through a town that they were unfamiliar with. Cop pulls them over like 8 minutes before the sun sets and tells them that they need to get out of this town before the sun sets. And he's like, in the way you're going, you won't be out. And he's like, it was like, well, can we turn around and go north? And then the cop's like, I mean, y'all might be able to get out. Then you have 6 minutes. So then the main character was like, well, can we do a U-turn here? And he's like, normally I wouldn't allow it, but if you ask really nicely, and he's like, if you say, pretty please, can this smart nigger make a U-turn here? And then he lets him make the U-turn, and he literally follows them until they get to the next town as the sun's setting. They have like 5 minutes. They can't speed because he'll pull them over. They can't, do anything crazy. They can't swerve. And he is literally hitting the back of their car and just pushing them along, and they get across the railroad tracks to the next town as the sun sets.
But I don't get it. Is your goal to get me out of the town or not? Because if your goal is to get me out of the town, I can do 90 out of this bitch.
It's the fact that you're there, period.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't got to pull me over. You ain't got to swerve me, pimp. I can leave. If that's the goal, no, the goal is to keep my ass
The
here.
goal is to torment you
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
by all means necessary. Torment you, essentially kill you. I mean, they don't want you
What
to
they don't know
live.
is I
It's not
keep the
about the
Glock
child.
loaded. And I'll pull this motherfucker out and bust it on any you white motherfuckers.
They
that
might
choose.
not know that, but they assume it.
Mm.
And they assume that about every black person they
You should
pull
assume that
over
correctly,
with their
fucking with me.
guns drawn.
Yeah.
You should assume it correctly, fucking with me. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna make it out this bitch, one way or the other.
But
I'll
you
go to jail in the next
I was
county.
gonna say you're going to jail.
I'll go to jail in the next county over, and I'll give my tale. I'll call Netflix to do my documentary, and we can go on from there.
I'm dead.
We can go from there, man. Because I'm telling you, you're not about to catch me. You not know because what I don't. If I'm gonna die anyway, right? Because if I stay in this town, y'all gonna keep fucking with me, and you know what I'm saying? I ain't with the torture shit. We don't do torture, pimp. Nah. What's gonna have to happen is once I get on Facebook Live and start recording this shit, you're gonna have to start explaining to the world, which is why they hate when you start recording, because now you got to explain to the world why you acting ignorant. You know what I'm saying? You ain't in your small hickory town no more. Now you got to explain to everybody what's going on. And then before you know it, you got goddamn all kinds of activists. Black Lives Matter done moved right into your neighborhood. Speaking of that, and I know we're gonna talk about it on Saturday, but did y'all hear about the horse called Black Lives Matter that was killed in the
Wow.
I don't know what's more ignorant. Killing the horse because it's called Black Lives Matter or naming your horse Black Lives Matter.
I don't know, but you should save that for Saturday.
I will. Okay.
Okay.
I just want
we'll bookmark that. Okay. We'll come back to it.
Okay. That's fine.
But I don't think it's ignorant to name him that. Well, just saying.
When you're white people,
it was awareness. They were black. No, they were black.
There's a certain thing called awareness, and then there's a difference to ultimately like almost feel like you're making fun of it.
Exactly.
No, so
I believe like you're making fun of it, or you're making light of it, rather.
They were
because you're gonna go out of your way and be like, you know what? I'm gonna name my child Black Lives Matter. So every time you say my child name, you gotta say it. Like that's
I get that.
You're
making that to your kid.
It don't matter. They were wrong for naming a horse that. That's like a woman naming a horse Roe v. Wade. That's still fucked up. Like that.
Well, now every time the horse is moving, you got to say Roe v. Wade in first, Roe v. Wade in second, Roe v. Wade coming up behind, Black Lives Matter coming right behind in second. Oh, Black Lives Matter just lost. Like, imagine having to be the announcer to say this shit. Like, I'm not saying this, bro. Get this fuck out of my way, bro. I'm not saying this.
He probably looking at that shit like, man, I need a replacement.
Yeah, I'm not about to say this. Because if I'm the black guy that got to do it, I sound dumb. If I'm the white guy and I choose not to do it, I sound racist. So
I feel you.
But
we'll talk more about it. But yeah. So today's conversation was great. This was the first of our racism series we'll be doing all month. So we'll be chatting about all types of things that we deal with as Black people on a daily basis and throughout our lives all month. Rich, if you want to wrap it on up with your spiel.
Yeah, because I surely had forgot.
Yep. That's why there was a slight awkward pause, and I was like,
brought to you by Lil Mac Gaming, the sponsor of the show. You know, if you're looking for something fun to do, something great to do, escape rooms are all in Ohio. Come check us out, All In Adventures. Come on up, and I'll make sure you guys have a great time. Until then, y'all know what to do. You do it every day. Stay unapologetically Black. You understand? And go on with your life. And don't let these white people fuck with you. You heard me? Gang.
Good night.
Y'all have a good one.
See ya.